Hey, Mike here with Canadian Musician. Here at the new Portland site, North by Northeast, going on. One of Toronto's, much tapped to be a big breakout star, Tasha the Amazon, just got off stage. Tasha, I know you're probably at this point used to doing 11 p.m. sold out club gigs, so it's probably a bit rough doing the afternoon slot, but especially because you generally have a very kind of hyped up show. I've seen you call yourself the party conductor as far as your approach to live shows. I can't imagine we'll be doing these kind of sets for much longer, but how do you handle something like this on a day like today?
I mean, I think any kind of show is a blessing for a musician. You get any kind of venue gives you an opportunity to make new fans, and a day like this, it's the crowd's going to be a little more tame. It's in the middle of the day, so probably won't get the crowd surf that I want, but that's fine. It's people leave having had a great time, so you make a ton of new fans, and it's always dope.
Like I said, I can't imagine you'd be doing afternoon sets for much longer, according to the hype that's going on right now. Because outlets, not just in Canada, in the States, kind of everywhere you look, anyone who's following you at the moment, you and someone else who's playing today, Daniel Caesar, the two of you seem to be the two people that everyone's kind of tapping to be Toronto's next big breakout stars. At this point, how do you harness that kind of hype, use it to your advantage, but not also let it kind of get in the way as it can?
It's the kind of thing I don't pay attention to. I think it's it can be a blessing and curse. I've heard that said about a lot of artists that you kind of never hear from again. So really it's about focusing on my team and doing the stuff that we had always planned to do, which is we just finished a record, filming a bunch of videos, doing some touring, trying to collaborate with a lot of people. So it doesn't really change the way you do things internally as a team, but it's obviously it's awesome to hear that people care and that they want to hear more. So at the end of the day, it's just kind of a dope thing to hear, and then you keep doing your thing. Yeah.
You mentioned the team you had around you. I've seen you in interviews, whether it's your collective Candy Coated Kill is your DJ co-producer, Dan Thrax, or manager Erickson. It seems like you've very deliberately kind of created this team around you of people that you're close with and that you trust. As you kind of build up from here and things continue to get bigger, how important is that? But also, how do you manage that crew around you?
I think some artists are kind of a little bit more egotistical, and it's everything is about them. For me, I find I'm really uncomfortable with that. I think the only time I want to win is when I want to win for a team of people who I care about their careers and I care about their lives, and that's the team that we've built. Like you mentioned, Dan Thrax, Erickson, Colin, who's our videographer and has been since day one. So to me, that motivates me. It's hard sometimes for me to wake up in the morning and be make records and records and records for myself and try to make $1 million for myself. That doesn't really fly. But if I think about all these people whose goals are linked to mine, that makes me want to hustle. Yeah.
What is the goal from here? As I keep going back to it, but it's just a matter of fact that there is, like I've said, a shitload of hype around you at the moment. Essentially, what are your near and long-term goals? Where do you want to take it? How big do you want to get, and how do you, essentially, is there a plan, a roadmap for getting there? I
mean, I think everyone kind of you shoot for as big as you can get, right? But I like to stay super practical. For us, it's finishing tracks, putting together solid stuff, because it doesn't matter how big you dream as a musician, it's always going to come down to the songs, right? So it's spending a lot of time in the studio, spending a lot of time listening to kind of what's happening in the landscape of rap music right now, and finding where we fit in that. And then the most tangible thing is collaborating with other people, getting on other bills like that, and just building and seeing how big we can get. There's been a lot of interest, from American labels and people that we're talking to as well. So you can hope, and you can be I really hope next year at this time, touring with fucking Kanye or something like that. That'd be dope. If not, maybe in 2 years. But so you just keep aiming higher. Yeah.
You mentioned the attention from American labels is starting to come in that. When you're in the kind of position you're in now, you have a bit more leverage than many artists usually would when they're signing their first deal. Essentially, what kind of deal are you looking for as far as how do you know what will be the right fit when you see it?
I think because we do everything in our team, we produce, me and Dan Thrax have a studio, we produce everything there, we make our videos and write everything. Because of that, we're not looking for a label that's going to do everything for us and kind of take all of the control away. So for us, it's we're not going to sign until something really makes sense for the way that we work. It's somebody gives us kind of the deal that we can't say no to. Otherwise, we can do everything at home in our team, and you keep all the money, you keep all the control, and you just kind of party and do what you want. Yeah.
one of the cool things about your background is it's not just hip hop oriented. You're classically trained on the piano from the Royal Conservatory, a multi-instrumentalist. I've seen you say in interviews that you have punk influences when you were younger, were a Goldfinger fan and that kind of stuff. like, how did you transition as an artist? Like, how did you transition from that background into hip hop, and does that have any role in what you're still doing?
I think I've never been the kind of person that sees genre. I think because I play so many different instruments and have always, like, I started writing like rap lyrics when I started playing piano. So to me, it's just like, I think a lot of lifelong musicians, we don't necessarily see genre kind of the way that maybe like a music fan might. You just like identify with the act of making stuff. So for me, it's like I could play in a punk band at the same time as I go on tour for Tasha the Amazon doing rap, and then I would love to just turn around and do like a concert piano set. That would be, to me, that would be like an amazing career. Yeah.
The other cool thing is you and Danthrax, I believe, co-produce everything that you do. One thing a conversation I've had with a few people of late is essentially asking the question, like, why is there not more prominent female producers? Like, how have you crafted your skills? But do you have any theories to that? Like, I've never heard a real good explanation as to, which is essentially just why aren't there more prominent female producers? Do you have any theories to that, and what got you into that side of it?
It's really weird. I've tried to I've mentored a lot of like producers, like young kids who are starting to produce, and I've always been looking for chicks who want to do it. I think the thing is, it's just the climate that we're in, girls aren't really encouraged to do that. It's not seen as like a cool thing for a girl to do. I think for me, when I was young, all my friends were always guys. I was always skateboarding and playing, guitar, playing in punk bands. And I'm just a very like headstrong person, and I like a goal setter, and I've always been a little bit anomalous that way. So to me, I was like, I want the most possible control over my artistic sound, because there's nothing worse than having a vision and not being able to execute on it. So that's why I started learning how to produce. But I think like a lot of female musicians that I meet, maybe they have like a beautiful voice, they're great songwriters, and the industry encourages them to do that. So it's not that they shouldn't do it, but I think it's just an easier route, or like a more obvious route for a lot of really talented females to do. Whereas like, I don't know, it just takes like having the vision and then moving forward with it. I would love to see more. It would be super dope, but.
How did you push your way into that studio world then? Like, what was your in, and how did you take advantage of it? I
kind of just started showing up at people's studios and like weaseling my way in and just being a fly on the wall. I was like sit in the back with a little notepad and like write down what programs they had, what what hardware they bought, what they were doing, how they were mixing. I would ask questions. I think a lot of the times like I would get let in because somebody thought like I was going to date them. They're like, come by the studio, honey. Like, let me show you how it's done. I'm like, okay. But really, then you just get there and you're like, okay, so let me ask you some questions. So yeah, it was that. And I had like a couple mentors along the way, people who really like saw potential, and they were like, let me show you what I know. And that was completely invaluable. Like some of the coolest experiences that I've had. And then meeting up with Danthrax, who's a couple years older than me and has been producing since he was like 12 or 13. So then we were just kind of like swapping knowledge, and that's how that relationship grew, just kind of like a very symbiotic kind of music partnership.
I guess lyrically, rhyme and flow wise, you're one of the most fully formed new artists that I've seen in a long time. A lot of that, like, I'm wondering, because again, going back to the work you and Danthrax do together as far as co-producing, like, how do you craft your songs? Lyrically, are you the only writer? Are you co-writing? And are you and Danthrax coming up with the beats first, and then you're writing down the lyrics? Is it freestyle? Like, essentially, how do you craft your songs?
Yeah, because I'm like a musician and a producer first, I think, to me. Well, maybe not first, but that's just like my main go-to. Beats always come first. So usually I'll like start a beat and then pass it to Danthrax, or he'll start a beat, pass it to me, and then like sometimes you start something and it's really dope and you hit a wall and you're like, I don't know where this goes, and then the other person takes it and runs with it and does something really cool with it. Lyrically, I'm really usually kind of concept based. So I'll hear like an instrumental, I'll like loop an instrumental, turn the lights out in my studio and like put some black lights on and like vibe out for a while. And I'm super visual, so I'll like, it kind of like tells us the story or something like that. Like I see like a film playing in my head, and then I just write it, like just write whatever's dope about that. Yeah, and a lot of times Dan will have like cool ideas and toss it in the mix, like, yeah.
Do Do you do much rewriting? Is it a lot of you essentially just start and stop when it's done, or is there a lot of kind of revisiting songs?
I used to do. I think like for my first album, which we finished in like 3 years ago, because it was my first project and like my first solo project, I really wanted to nail it. So and you're like a little bit nervous about being perfect all the time. So I did a lot of rewriting on that one. This album had like about half the amount of rewriting. I still do it because you can always get tighter, and you have some new ideas and a better direction to take something. But I'm trying to do less and less rewriting, just to let the flow be the thing. But yeah.
The latest single is My Level. Like, is that going to be essentially, is there going to be an LP, EP, LP in the near future? Is that still part of your plan, or is it more kind of piecemeal release singles approach?
Yeah, I mean, like, we have a finished album. Whether we release it as an album, it's kind of like, who cares anymore? It's like, it's about tracks. So I'm filming a video tomorrow for the next single, which is Picasso Leaning, and I think we're just gonna keep doing that for the summer. At some point we'll put it out as like an EP, LP. But like I said, yeah, like, try not to stress it. Just trying not to be too, like, that's the thing, like, because we're not on a label, we have the leeway to kind of do things the way we want to. We can just wake up one morning and be like, let's put this track out, so you don't have to worry about the rollout and how's it gonna look. You just kind of call her at your friends at some blogs and be like, hey, you want to premiere this today? So if that feels really good. It's really fun to do it that way. I'd like to do it. Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go. I feel kind of almost privileged seeing you here today because, like I say, with everything that's going on around you right now, I can't imagine it's too long till you're playing the headlining slots, selling out bigger shows, that kind of stuff. And if you keep an eye on all the people to watch right now, not just in Toronto, not just in Canada, but just people that are watching hip-hop and urban music, you're on almost all of those lists at the moment. So it's cool to see you at this point, and best of luck moving forward. I'm hoping it's big things.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Take care.